for asking.
Oh, you're most welcome. And can you please start telling us can you tell us a bit about your company, Medsaf, just to give an audience a bit of background as to what Medsaf is all about?
Absolutely. So Medsaf is an enterprise solution for healthcare stakeholders to purchase, manage, and track medications through complicated supply chains. So we use data analytics and technology to increase access, affordability, and quality of medications dispensed. We launched in about 2017 to combat the fake and substandard medication issue that plagues countries like Nigeria, but also other emerging markets as well. We currently are in Nigeria. We work with over 400 various clients, and we're expanding. Our plan is to be the platform for all pharmaceutical transactions worldwide. So we have a huge vision, a long way to go. But by starting here in Nigeria, which is the worst case scenario globally, we're building something that's strong enough to stand up to any market anywhere. So it's a very exciting business.
I mean, it sounds like a very exciting business. So you said that, so essentially you have the aim to be kind of like the one-stop shop for healthcare stakeholders to purchase, manage, and track medications. So that sounds like a lot of, that sounds very exciting, but can we break that down exactly for what that means for our audience?
Yeah, so if you're a hospital or pharmacy, you don't have to worry about stocking your pharmacy, right? Your hospital pharmacy or your pharmacy. Basically, you go on our platform, click accept, and the medications that you need are delivered to you just in time. For manufacturers, for other suppliers that would use the Medsaf platform, they would be connected to off-takers, quality hospitals and pharmacies, so they can make sure that they get their goods to those hospitals and pharmacies exactly when they need it. So it's just about a seamless platform that can plug into all stakeholders. So other suppliers, hospitals, pharmacies, governments, NGOs, everybody can use one platform where there's transparency on the movement of medication from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And so how did you come up with that business idea? It's a very, right now we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So it's obvious that, healthcare and medicine would be something that people make use of. But you started this a while ago. So tell us about how you started your company and what gave you the idea to come up with this concept.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm an entrepreneur. This is my third company. My first company was helping to start home healthcare agencies in the US. So Illinois and Indiana. So that was my entrepreneurial experience before I moved to Nigeria about almost 7 years ago now. When I got here, I did start a solar company. So that was my first entrepreneurial experience here in Nigeria. But while I was building that company, a friend of mine died from taking a fake malaria pill. So that alerted me to this world that Nigerians are actually just resigned to the fact that they may or may not get a real medication if they go to the pharmacy or the hospital, and that's something that everybody even knew about. And so not only was it the pain of losing a friend, but also just the feeling that it's not fair that Africans are just okay with potentially not just having access to the medications that they need to save their life, and that someone needs to stand up for that. So that's how the concept of Medsaf was born, from that idea that quality medication is a fundamental human right and that everybody deserves access to quality and cost-effective medications.
Fantastic. I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. But it's also interesting that that experience was kind of what gave you, the start that you needed to start your company. And I'm looking forward to speaking about your company later on in the program. So this show is called Scaling Through Crisis, and we want to talk to entrepreneurs about kind of how they're dealing in this crisis. COVID-19 is a pandemic, as you know, that's affecting millions of entrepreneurs worldwide, but we still find that there are some stories of innovation and companies being able to scale through this very unfortunate pandemic. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how the pandemic has affected your business. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as I've already explained the story, we started in 2017 to do exactly what we do today. So we have a long history of, sensitizing the market to this idea that you can use technology and data analytics to make your job better, but also increase the quality of the types of medications that you're dispensing, and also reduce costs by doing that. So, back in 2017, we were going to the outskirts of Lagos with our laptop and helping hospitals and pharmacies, use our platform and teaching them how to use it. So when this pandemic hit, basically it just reinforces the good decision that we made so long ago, when the industry looked like it would have been impossible to move into a tech solution. Whereas COVID-19 has disrupted the supply chain even further. There's a bigger breakdown in supply chain now, right? So it's even more important for a hospital pharmacy to have a good partner to let them know where medications are in the country at any given moment in time. We've been working on our capabilities to source and our capabilities to have quality partners for over 3 years now. So what COVID-19 has done for us is it's just reinforced the good business decision that we made to start this company and allowed us to expand allowed us to expand during this time. So for example, during this COVID-19 lockdown, we've actually expanded to Abuja from Lagos. So from a business perspective, our thought was we would open up an actual office in Abuja and, you would have staff there, etc. But this has accelerated the process of just being able to reach more customers and partners without having to move or do anything different. Medsaf is right now able to supply across the country, and we're serving a very, very big need right now for hospitals and pharmacies that are just trying to, pick up the pieces and figure out how to move on in their own organizations.
No, fantastic. So it's as if you were kind of ahead of the game. You came up with this idea. You said in 2017. I'm sure you never imagined that a pandemic of this sort would come maybe so soon. So it's good to see that your business model is being validated, in 2020 as well. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about leadership in crisis. As a CEO and founder of Medsaf, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you have to deal with on a regular basis. And I'm sure that the COVID-19 has probably expedited or heightened some of the issues that entrepreneurs deal with on a daily basis. So how would you say that you've had to lead differently in this time?
I wouldn't say I've had to lead differently. I've always been a forward thinker, and I've always had checks and balances in almost everything that I do. For worst case scenarios, I guess that's just how my brain works. I'll put little traps for any type of issues that come up. But also, when I do something, I'm very sure of why I'm doing it. So the fact that Medsaf was already a tech platform, we already had migrated all of our processes onto a platform where that was tech enabled, allowed us to actually, have our company go halfway remote without having to change or do or learn anything new, right? So we, the decision to close down the office partially, we are an essential business, so we could have stayed open with everyone going to work. But, my goal was just to make sure that everyone was safe as possible and to only have crucial employees in our office. But because we did the right things from the beginning, from the building of our foundation of our company, moving to remote work wasn't a big disruption or difference in our business. So we've pretty much carried on, just as we have from before. We've just been expanded into working in maybe product lines that we wouldn't necessarily have put so much focus on. such as we've always sold masks, for example. We've always sold N95 masks or 3-ply masks. But now that, when COVID hit, we had to make sure that we had large, cost-effective supplies of PPE, right? So that's just an example. But we've always sold all of those things. So it's just been about making sure that we're planning for more an expansion in certain product lines, as well as a decrease in other product lines. So for example, the hospitals, had to close, some of them closed, and then some of them had to reduce their own operations. So you're looking at less of a turnover, you're looking at your lower purchase amounts. But we work with hospitals and pharmacies. So we start to see an uptick in some pharmacies as well, and just what they're purchasing. But and also being a platform, a tech-enabled platform, we're just able then to expand as well. So we haven't really seen a dip in revenue, which I'm sure is on the minds of a lot of business owners today. So it was just about reinforcing what we know is right and being very clear in your intentions of what you're trying to do, and staying the course has allowed us to come out as a winner in this COVID-19 pandemic.
No, absolutely. I mean, you make a good point. A lot of entrepreneurs in this time are facing a lot of uncertainty, but I do think that we're seeing with companies that invested or that thought about doing, medical related things. We have other companies like Helium Health and 54 Gene that are also in the same kind of medical field that you're in, that are also really thriving in this time. So it's good to see, and it's good to see that your business model is again being validated in this time. Okay, so it seems as though COVID-19 has, if anything, it's enhanced your business operations. If you could give, a give or take, what's the increase been in terms of percentage? Would you say that you've had a 50% increase? Would you say that it's been like an 80% increase in demand for PPE and kind of medical equipment?
Absolutely. Astronomical. Way more than 300% increase in demand for, PPE, right? And so, from our perspective, we've always sold those. We've always had those connections. So to be able to just kind of double down on that was not a strain for us. I think that, for us, it's just about making sure that we're in the front of people's minds so that they can realize that now that COVID-19 has hit, everyone and their mama wants to be a PPE seller, right? They want to sell masks, etc. But the reality is that there's also quality control issues as it pertains to N95 masks specifically as well. And so you want to make sure that your source is a credible source. And so for us, it's just about getting in front of the message that, look, we've always stood for quality. We've always done this from the inception. We were brought into this earth to actually make sure you get quality, cost-effective medical products. That is our core competency. And so you should be trusting suppliers and sources that actually have that in their DNA. So for us, it's just been about trying to get in front of the message that you shouldn't be buying the gloves or masks that you would use as a health worker from just some random person on the street, just because everybody has decided to start selling those. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's kind of about quality control. And I'm sure that we'll have a lot of questions surrounding, what works and what doesn't, because I know that there's been a lot of, interesting kind of information around the proper use for PPE, how you should wear your mask, how you shouldn't. So that's definitely something that I look forward to speaking with you a little bit more about towards the end of the program. So now that we've kind of talked about a little bit how COVID-19 is or isn't affecting your business, I was reading through your biography, and I must say that you've had a very colorful career. And I think that there's a lot of things that people watching can learn from. So now that you're the CEO and founder of Medsaf, you have been since 2017. But one of the things that we're finding in this show is that people's experiences before, their startup or their company have a lot to do with the amount of success that they have with their business. So I know that you've had a career in politics. I know that you went to the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. You schooled in Atlanta. You've done a couple of different things. So could we discuss your entrepreneurial journey before now, or your career journey before now? How did you become, I guess, Vivian Nwakah now that we know as the founder and CEO of Medsaf?
So I love my story because it's a story of just staying true to myself and reinvesting in myself and reinventing myself over and over again and pushing myself to limits. It's why I'm durable and resilient enough to start a drug company in Nigeria as an American-born Nigerian, right? So the story has led me here. I wanted to be an actress. My parents said no. So I said, okay, I'll be a sociology major. Realized that they weren't really making that much money. So I just walked into a business fair and convinced Wells Fargo Financial to hire me, which they did. So that was my first job out of college. So had no clue about mortgages.
So before you go on, I mean, you make it seem like, you know, you just walked into Wells Fargo and told them to give you. So how, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's like, do you have a belief in who you are and what you can do? So I've always had an unshakable belief that my mind is powerful, that I can manifest what I want in this world and that I can outsmart the challenges that face me. So I realized that, oh, I'm not going to probably be able to get a good job with this psychology and sociology major. Who's making the money? And I would look around and see that the business school had all of these, you know, fancy fairs and all of these. I went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, so middle of the cornfields, Illinois. And I noticed that they had a lot of investment in their students, and I didn't see that in the psychology program. So I literally just walked into the fair and was able to wow the recruiters to give me a job. So, you know, so that's just a story of just, you know, how do you change your prospects, right? So a lot of my other, you know, classmates would have just been very worried about, you know, having to go and find a job or go to grad school, but I knew I was going to get a job, and so I just took it. So that's exactly what happened. Got to Wells Fargo, did really, really well. It's sales. You're basically telling someone that I can help you achieve your dreams. You want to own a home. You want to refinance your home. Why do you want to do it? And so Wells Fargo was a great school for me to learn just how to really dig deep into the psyche of someone that's purchasing something and how to sell something to make them, to inspire them, right? So in the US, we're talking about mortgages that are $200, $300, $1 million worth of mortgages. Usually that's the entire net worth of the individual. So being able to inspire them to work with you. So rose through the ranks there, did really well, was the first Black woman and youngest female to run my own branch. But then the market crashed. So for US market crashed. So for me, it was, you know, housing represented to me the American dream. At that point in time, the only thing I wanted in my life was to buy homes and have, you know, 2.5 kids and a dog. That was the American dream back then. And like it died. And so as I saw it crumbling around me, I realized that I quickly needed to level up. I needed to figure out how to rise above the reality of my situation, which is I've got this degree. I can't really pay attention. I don't have the attention span to really go back to school right now. You know, what do I do? So while the world was crumbling at that time in 2008, I decided to start to volunteer on a campaign of a friend. He's the first Nigerian American to run for alderman in Chicago. And so I wanted to pass out flyers. But again, I quickly saw opportunity. I saw places where I could shine. and where I could be very helpful. And so as I spent more time volunteering on that campaign, I just took on more and more responsibilities until I was running the campaign. We were backed by the DNC, so we got Obama's platform of how he actually won his election. We got that software. We had the AFSCME, Chicago Teachers Union, endorse us. It was probably one of the most exciting experiences in my life. And I learned how to count the votes. There's two things I learned that I actually incorporate in Medsaf daily. One is counting the votes. You know, I was a theater kid. You know, I can write, love to write books when I retire. I am an artistic person. And so I had to train my brain to think in numbers in a way that I didn't ever think about things, because you had to count the votes. You had to know on how many blocks of this city, you know, do you have positive votes? And so I learned that, you know, got help with that from the DNC, which was very helpful for us. The Democratic National Committee, you know, they sent people to come and help us. So that was great learning. But then also, how do you inspire people to go in the middle of a freezing cold Chicago winter to knock on doors for you? We are living in Nigeria right now. Chicago in its best glory of winter is like -30 wind chill.
Absolutely.
So I'm a Chicago girl, you know, we live that, right? But how do you inspire other people to go out on your behalf and get them to be so inspired by what you're doing that they, for free, do this work for you? So that was my role. That's what I did. So again, it's, you know, just learning how to get people to back what you want. So if you think about Medsaf, we say quality medication is a fundamental human right. That is a campaign slogan, right? Every single person can get behind this concept that you and I should have access to quality medication. And so that's an example of learning, you know, building a campaign, et cetera. Also, we raised a lot of money. So, you know, all of these things were great experiences. So after that, especially, you know, the markets crashed. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that I can go back to a corporate setting. Like, I just don't, you know, I don't know how that's going to work, you know? Meanwhile, after the campaign, we lost by 100 votes. So we were the front runner of that campaign against the machine, the dailies in Chicago, have been in power for 50, 60 years plus. So we lost against them, but young, unknown people rise to the top. So that was my legacy there. And I started traveling around the world. So this is another thing that Nigerian parents aren't always happy with. You know, I started backpacking. You know, I started a website called lonelytripping.com. People would dare me to go places. I went to Turkey for the first time that way. Bangkok on $100, you know, that was a dare, you know. And so I went to go and also see the world and learn about various cultures and how people are solving problems in their cities. So that was that's probably the most impactful experience that I've ever had, career-wise. To be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see how they live and understand how they solve problems and adapt it to your own, you know, challenges or, you know, build on that. That was the most helpful thing I've ever done in my life. So for all the backpackers out there, you'll probably look at them and realize that they end up being the successful entrepreneurs of today. So while I'm also traveling, I helped start up a home healthcare. So that was when I said, okay, I'm going to have to, you know, figure out how to build something out of nothing from scratch and make it successful. And so that was my first experience. So, you know, I'm just testing out my life at this point. Started the home healthcare agencies. That was an amazing experience. Learned all about, the US healthcare system and how that works, and opportunities to be successful by solving problems of the system. Those companies are still running, but that's kind of like my entrepreneurial background from a US perspective. So when I decided that the home health cares were doing great, I needed to now get the foundations of business, because, I didn't take business classes in college.
Right.
So of course, by this time I'm a seasoned traveler, and I couldn't imagine sitting down in a classroom for 2 years. So I found this program where I got to study at Georgia State's J. Mac Robinson business school, the Sorbonne in Paris, and the Federal University of Rio in Brazil. So with a small cohort of classmates, we traveled around the world. And it wasn't like, oh, you go this 1 week. It's literally like you move each country and you learn a different subset of your business program. So that was an amazing experience. Went to China as well. It was China and Brazil that led me to Nigeria. China, for whatever it's worth, was especially back then, was one of the most exciting places I'd ever been. To see all of these people working together to just change their society overnight, over and over and over again. And you could just see the growth that was happening there. That was something that I could never imagine from a US perspective. Same thing with Brazil. This is before the Olympics. This is before the World Cup there. This is right before. So the excitement of Brazilians at that point in time, that their life would all change, that they would, become a stronger superpower of a country, was intoxicating. I wanted to be part of that type of story of massive growth. I went to Bahia in the north of Brazil, and found out that everybody there thinks they're Nigerian. They have Nigerian food. They say they're Nigerian. And so then it was like, okay, I'm this Nigerian flavored American that has never been to Nigeria. So I said,
you know what? I've been to Nigeria before you moved
to Nigeria. So I had traveled now all over Asia, South America, Europe, and I had never been to Nigeria. And so it was at that point in time that I've run companies before, I have all this travel experience. I have, I have money in the bank. I've got, a lot of foundation. Let me just pop up in Nigeria and see what happens. And so I came here, no job, no clue. Lucky to have an uncle that has a nice house. And so I will say I was lucky to have the uncle that had a house. Huh?
The family support. You had family support, essentially.
I had 2 uncles here that helped me, and that's it. But I had no job, no clue, and I landed here for the first time. Yeah.
What a story. I mean, so you kind of were gallivanting. Well, not gallivanting. You were exploring the world. For various reasons, and you had never actually been to Nigeria. So then you decided. So you were inspired by, I guess, the Yoruba Nigerian culture that is in the northern side of Brazil, which then it's inspired you to go to Nigeria for the first time in 2017.
Yeah, or not 2017. This was 2013.
2013. Okay, but you started Medsaf in 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you moved in 2013, and when you finally started the company, how were you able to raise finance for the business? Like, what was that like for you, especially given the fact that you had never lived here? You mentioned that you had family connections that could help, but we all know how difficult it is to raise significant finance, especially for a tech company like yours. So talk to us about, I guess, that transition. Never having lived here before, and then being able to come up with this idea for Medsaf.
Well, again, this is why I'm an advocate for backpackers, right? Because when you land in the city you've never been in before, you don't know anyone. you've got to figure out how to know people, don't you? If you're
Right.
going to do anything or learn anything. So that's a skill that I had. So when I landed in Lagos, I just networked, right? And one of the very first things I did was embed myself just kind of in the tech ecosystem. I was inspired by the Jumias, the Congas, the stories of these entrepreneurs at the time that were building these large e-commerce platforms that were just changing the prospect of Nigeria. So those were very inspirational stories to me at that time. And it clicked to me that technology is going to be the way that Nigeria can transform and be a China or be a Brazil, that it would need the help of technology to leapfrog over, older antiquated infrastructure and systems to create something brand new, that there needed to be a massive level of disruption across Nigeria's various industries for there to be success here. And so I very early on wanted to be part of that story. How do I bring disruption to Nigeria in a way that improves people's lives? So as I was traveling, I was meeting people who had left their own home countries, came to a new country, and created success out of nothing. And so I wanted to do that here for the African, in the African perspective. So it was embedding myself into the tech system, meeting people, networking, building that first company where I didn't raise money for the first company, the solar company. But creating a reputation where I'm doing really good work. I remember Bastian Goddard of Iroko TV is one of our investors, one of the founders of Iroko TV. And I remember, going to his, facility and doing an energy survey, because we wanted to see if solar could be put on their rooftop, right? So I'm building these relationships in the ecosystem using my business. And those were the first types of people that I went to after I started Medsaf, right? So people who respected me and knew my work with the first company, Green Tech, those were my initial investors. So, my partner, who is an ex-oil and gas executive, some of the other startups like Iroko TV, these are all connections I had made during that time. I also made a very important decision that I did not want to raise money from family and friends. I wanted to find people who I could inspire to invest in me and Medsaf that were successful in their field. So, we got money from Silicon Valley, from angels, some angels who'd never invested before, invested in me in Nigeria, and they live in San Francisco, New York, some Nigerians here. So, I was able to just kind of pick the types of people that I thought would be important for me to learn from, or I admire them. Those were our original investors or our original angel investors. And that's how we raised money, was by just being very strategic of who we went to go and speak to and inspire them to give us money. And so there's one point I want to make there too, which is that we've raised over $1.4 million, and we're currently in another raise right now. And so I think the hardest thing for people, new entrepreneurs, but also, definitely women who are underrepresented, is just learning the language of raising money. It's daunting, right? So when you're raising money just from family or friends, you might not get the questions, the hard questions that will force you to really reevaluate your company over and over and over again. So by going to strangers, some of them strangers, and getting them to give me money, it was literally me having to really come correct with, the business plan, the vision, the future, and the numbers of the business in order for them to feel comfortable enough to give us money.
I mean, I think that's a really great point that you make, because typically a lot of people say that they get their first investment from their family. or their friends. And I like that you say that you wanted to make sure that your concept was so valid that outsiders would buy into it, but not just buy into it, but believe in it and in you as well. So I like the fact that you said you wanted them to invest in you and invest in the company. So because a lot of stories that you hear like my mom gave me this amount of money or my dad gave me this amount of money. So I like the fact that that was something that was important to you from the beginning. That's really, really great. And in terms of being a woman in tech, I always have it's always interesting kind of having this conversation with women, because I'm not one that likes to point out that women are women, but you are a woman and affected your experience in the tech field. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I have. So actually, I gave an interview yesterday, and we talked about this too. I think it's a really important topic. I said I'm going to. So you look at yourself and you think about your weaknesses, and sometimes you might feel discouraged by things that you perceive to be challenges, but that's not how my brain works. So I know that I have weaknesses and I know that I have strengths. So how am I going to use the strengths that I have to overcome the clear challenges to a woman being successful in this business? So for example, just one good example of how we would overcome that, me, my co-founder Topwe, she's also a pretty girl. We would take our nice shiny box of Medsaf medications, to these hospitals and pharmacies, and they would look at us in such surprise, because they're used to, getting a dirty box of medications from the market. There's no thought about packaging. There's no thought about presentation. But as women, we know, how to do those things, how to package something, how to make something look really nice and pretty. And so we wove that kind of feminine touch into, just how we presented our company to clients, right? So that's just an example of how we're doubling down on the fact that we're women to get people to overcome their potential reservations of working with us, and even push us above other contenders who just have maybe a box of medications that's a decent price. Well, we have, the whole package. So that's just an example of where we just said, yeah, we're women, oh well. So we're going to also get this money too. And we're also going to do something good, and we're going to succeed, and we're going to excel, and that's not going to take us out. So I look at it that way. I know it's hard. I have been told, especially there was a Nigerian investor who said to me, like, he tried to make some type of analysis of me and his wife, and the end result was that basically my company isn't going to be successful because I'm a woman. That's pretty much what he said. I can't remember the specific words. And yeah, that hurt my feelings, like definitely, when you're trying to go and talk to an investor and they're seeing you being a woman as a discount, it can be hurtful, but you pick yourself back up and you keep going. And so as a woman, there are obstacles. So you just need to over exceed on your objectives. If a typical guy can talk to 10 investors, well, I'm going to talk to 50 investors, right? So that's just the type of mindset that you have to have, and then not take things personal. Because let me tell you, that man who kind of made me feel bad because I was a woman, I promise you, he wished he had invested in Medsaf back then, right now. You know what I mean? So, you made that mistake. That was your call. Next time, you're going to think about a woman, you're going to say, oh, she might be like Vivian, so I'll invest. So we're all pioneers. We're blazing the trail. We're women. It doesn't stop us. Co-founder, she had a baby last year. She's back to work. We're all working from homes. Great for her, right? Like, so we're going to adjust. It doesn't stop us from being successful just because we have family and we're women.
I like that approach. I mean, I think we all know that the world is not an equal place yet. And women face so many, issues in and out of the workplace. But I like the way that you think. in the way that you are so certain about the fact that, yes, I'm a woman, but I'm actually going to use, not even but, and I'm also going to use the strength that I have to enhance my, my opportunities in business. So I think that that's a very innovative way to look at it, because we always talk about what are the issues that women are facing. So maybe we should pivot the way that we think about it and try to focus.
Never give up your power, right? So I have never, ever given up my power as a human being. And as long as you double down on that and your ethics and your code of conduct, then you are successful. But the moment that you give up your power dynamics in a conversation, you're done. So you've got to be careful about that, about, what it means to be a woman in business in an African context. It's rough.
Right. So what advice do you have for women who are trying to, who want to go into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you except your mind. I recently, like yesterday, I reread The Alchemist. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
I read that in December again, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite books. Yes.
Yeah. So I reread that. Someone made me think about that book again, and I sent it to them, and I said, let me reread it, because I read this book around the time I started traveling, right? And, and then it's that reminder of it's inside of you. Everything, the power of what you need to achieve and your greatest wants and desires, and the power to get what you need is all within you, right? And you just have to unlock that power, and you have to be understanding that, there are going to be challenges and it's going to be hard, but you're going to persevere and you're going to be brave. So these are all, personal development, just kind of concepts that I work on every single day, but that's the only way you're going to be successful at anything in life, not just even entrepreneurship, even entrepreneurs. If you're trying to rise up through a corporation, etc., it's all the same thing. You've got to believe in yourself, be brave, listen to your intuition, and pay attention to the signs, and go after your destiny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. I really like that. I'd like to take some questions from the audience. That's kind of like what we like to do to get an opportunity for the people watching to ask a few questions. So I'm going to pull up a couple of questions that we have, and hopefully you can answer some of them. Let's see here. So we have a question from Nonso here, who's asking, how do you keep innovation at the heart of your company during this time?
So the only way that you can keep innovation at the heart of your company is if innovation is the heart of your company. Yeah. So you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, what are you trying to do here? So for Medsaf, before we started, we spent a lot of time just understanding the problem, like really figuring out, like immersing ourselves into the problem itself to understand what it is. And then what's the solution? And is this solution so good that people are going to want to jump on it and pay money for it, right? So you really have to understand what it is that you're trying to do, and how it's helpful, and how you're going to monetize it, and how are you going to use innovation to always keep yourself ahead of the curve when you even start the company, so that during a time of COVID-19, it's already in your DNA to innovate, right? And if it's not in your DNA, take some time, tear everything apart, sit down with your team, and go through the entire business again and see where can you start to infuse forward-thinking ideology, processes, and procedures that allow you to stay ahead of the curve. But innovation should be in the DNA of your company if you're innovating. Our company's legal name is Disrupt Pharma Tech. Why? Because we started to disrupt. That's innovation from the very beginning, in the heart of what we do.
Fantastic. So there you go on innovation. So Beatrice is asking here, you seem like a very confident person. Have you always been this way? And do you have any advice for being confident as a young woman?
No, I am not always a confident person, especially when it comes to men. So there's many areas of my life where I'm not confident, right? But so for me, it was about finding my passion. Like, what am I actually passionate about? What am I good at? What am I bad at? And how do I work on it every single day? So that I made a very strategic point to share my backpacking journey, right? The reason why is because it is that self-reflection and that, unsurety of what's going to happen, even just on a day-to-day basis, that has made me who I am to be more confident today. So if I hadn't had put myself in really uncomfortable situations, if I hadn't fallen down and had to pick myself back up and laugh at myself and make mistakes and, just be very honest and real about who I am, I wouldn't have the confidence levels that I have today. So you've got to just kind of like reevaluate, what are you showing the world? When I was building Medsaf, I told everybody. So I was never stealth mode. Some startups like to do stealth mode. We don't have the luxury of being stealth mode. I wanted everybody to know what I was doing. And guess what? If I failed, oh well. And I think it's also one other thing is just thinking about failure as a way to grow. I have failed at so many things in my life. And it's those failures that teach you the lessons of how to do something better, more efficient, stronger, faster, or more closely aligned with your reality for the next time. And if you don't think like that, then you'll have trouble. But I'm not, I am who I am. I just am who I am, and I'm working on myself every day.
Yeah. I mean, I like the honesty. I think sometimes you do have to take yourself out of your comfort zone, and you do have to take yourself out of what you know in order to really find who you are. And I can actually relate to that story. So thanks for sharing that. And I have a question for you. So, excuse me, I'm just going to move into a different office because I'm getting a bit. Sorry about that, guys. We just resumed coming back into the office today, so it's just a little bit hectic. So please accept my apologies for that. I wanted to find out.
Gloves. Do you need?
Yeah. No, I have my mask. It's over there, but I don't know. Well, yeah, it's a live show, so let's just keep it moving. Yeah. So I wanted to find out from you. Do you believe that women can have it all? So you seem to be a very accomplished young woman. You have founded a company. You've been able to raise finance. You seem to be someone who has understood the true meaning of life, in the sense that you seem to have understood what it means to be successful in your work life, but it also seems like you've done the work within yourself to be the best version of yourself. That's kind of what I get from speaking to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you believe that women can have it all? Can we have, the Fortune 500 company and the family and the husband and are we able? Can women have it all? Essentially, that's my question.
Yes, but what is your all? What does your all look like? So for me, my all is definitely going to include building my own family, but it has to happen a little bit later than I would have wanted to, right? To kind of get where I am today. But nothing will stop me from being 40, 45 years old with little kids running around. And that's in my trajectory. I don't feel any sense of loss for not having children in my 30s or in my mid 30s now, right? So, I feel that I will find the partner who will accept me for who I am and be able to build the family that I want and have the company at the place where I need it to be. But my all is going to look different from someone else's all, right? And so I think it's more about figuring out deep inside, what is your all? You know, what's your destiny? What's your goal in life? You know, and if family is part of that, how can you make your destiny match with, you know, with all of the pieces that need to be in place for you to actually reach your self-actualization as a human being? You know, and so I think we're all striving to find that balance, you know, as people, and that's our life journey. That's the path that we're on, is to figure that out. You know, so my all doesn't look like it would have potentially looked like when I was 20, you know, but that's okay. It's my own journey too. So yeah, I mean, I think, yes, you can have it all, but having it all is having every single component of what you want in the world automatically means compromise. So what are the compromises that you're willing to make to reach your goals? You know, so that's a very personal decision, but I will have it all and will have it all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end, a little bit to the end of the program. And I wanted to find out if there's anything that you'd like to share with our audience before we go. How can people get in touch with Medsaf? How can people, you know, if they need your services, can you tell us a bit about how we can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can email me at contact@medsaf.com. So that's contact@medsaf.com. We work with many of the largest hospitals and pharmacies in Lagos and Abuja, for example. And we're starting to expand outside of those two cities. So if you work with a hospital, if you know of people who work within a hospital or pharmacy setting that might need a second look at their procurement of medications, I am happy to talk to them. If you're a corporation or an NGO and you're looking for PPE, so, you know, masks and gloves and, you know, hand sanitizers, all those things, we have that as well. We've leveraged really great prices in the market. So, you know, we're continuously a supply for all of your needs as it pertains to medications, consumables, but also now PPE as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's been really interesting speaking to you. I mean, from talking about your journey before in politics, how you ran the campaign, to your university, to the backpacking that you've done all across the world, I think it shows that your varied experiences have kind of made you the person that you are today. And congratulations on building a company like Medsaf. I believe that it's going to be a company that, you know, will probably outlive you. You know, in the future. And
can I say something that is just like my mantra? And I think
absolutely.
more Africans need to think this way. When I started the company, I said, I am building an institution. I want to be Rockefeller. I want to be, you know, those institutions in the United States and across Europe that live generations and generations past the founder. So when I started the company, I said, this is not my company. I did not start the company as Vivian's company. I started the company as the people's company. And if you have that mindset, it actually changes the type of decisions that you make, from the innovation, from, you know, processes, from all the things that you think about when you actually start the company. If you start thinking about foundation, this foundation needs to last past me. I need to be able to come to a board meeting and say, hey guys, what happened? Great, good job. Going back to my kids now. So if I do that, then that's an institution, that's a legacy that lives past me. And that's how Africa will rise, by actually creating businesses that are sustainable past MD, who controls everything.
Yeah, that's definitely some food for thought. I think essentially, if we want to develop our countries, we're going to have, like you said, 100 Rockefellers. You know, we have Dangote right now, but we're going to need like thousands of those kind of companies to really thrive. So I'm glad that you are in that kind of mindset. And I look forward to celebrating Medsaf as a company that outlives you and is there forever. So yeah, it's been really a pleasure speaking with you today. I feel like I've learned a lot about your journey and also kind of your entrepreneurship journey. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you and also finding out about the great stuff that you guys are up to. It's great to see that you guys are doing well in COVID-19. So yeah, thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a good day, okay? All right.
You too. Have a good day. Take care. Bye. Hi, guys. Apologies about a slight interruption in today's show. As you know, a lot of people are getting back to work, so there's a bit of noise. So we'll definitely try to mitigate that for upcoming episodes. So again, you've been watching another episode of Scaling Through Crisis, which is brought to you by Business Day and Endeavor Nigeria. My name is Lehlé Balde, and I work with Business Day, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. And I look forward to another episode of Scaling Through Crisis, which is happening on Thursday, the 6th of June. So please tune into that. Have a great day and have a great weekend, guys. And thank you again. Take care.